welcome back to my channel, Mental Health with Melissa. My name is Melissa, and if you're new here, I have a little spiel for you. So I was looking at some of the statistics on my channel, and I noticed that a majority of my viewers are actually unsubscribed to my channel. And so I did notice that the same viewers are coming back to my channel, watching my videos, but are not subscribed. So I please ask you, do me the smallest of favors and subscribe to my channel. And the reason being is because by doing so, YouTube's analytics is able to really push my content out more to our specific communities. I really have a strong desire and platform in pushing out mental health information out there to our communities of color and kind of breaking that stigma for a lot of our communities of color. Personally speaking, there's a lot of stigmas against mental health or sharing mental health kind of as a person in my community identifying as a minority. And so I really want to make sure that we can get more information out there. And on top of that, I have tons of free LCSW test prep. When I say tons, I mean hundreds. And so by subscribing to my channel, you're going to automatically get my videos popping up on your home screen once I have a new one. I have new videos every single Sunday and Wednesday. So please subscribe and please hit that notification bell and like button for this video. And that leads me to my next spiel, which is, if you haven't heard, I have a new LCSW test prep that is going to be ready for purchase on March 31st. I have a video on it. It's like a teaser about what you can expect. Basically, what you can expect on there is a full study program with all the topics you need to know on the test, including a 170 question LCSW mock exam, along with private videos that are not going to be accessible on my channel to the public, but just for those that actually purchase the program. So head to the description box below to sign up and get more information. So today I have a video for you on research designs. So I'm not going to be talking about every single research design that you need to know for the test, but I will do that in my LCSW test prep study program that I'm going to be having, have coming out soon in March. For now, I have 4 main sorts of study designs, research designs, and so we're going to go over each of these. So I encourage you to take notes as I go over them. And then in the second part to this video, I'm going to have a test prep video for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So randomized control design. So this is really a study that measures the effect of an intervention by randomly, so randomized is your keyword here, randomly assigning groups or participants to one of 2 groups, and that's going to be the intervention group. So this is the group that's going to receive the experiment. So sometimes it's called the experimental group. So it's either the intervention group or the experimental group, or the control group. So the control group is a group that usually doesn't receive any sort of treatment or interventions. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this, and I'm going to give you an example of all of these, so hopefully they can serve as more of an understanding of kind of what each of these sorts of research designs look like. So an example of a randomized control group is somebody having anxiety. So somebody being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. And if you want to learn more about that diagnosis and the criteria, because you will need to know these things for the test, you're going to need to know DSM criteria. Let me know in the comment section. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So say somebody has generalized anxiety disorder, a trial creates a drug, so medication to alleviate the anxiety symptoms. So people have to meet the full criteria for generalized anxiety disorder. And because it's a new drug and it's going to first need to be tested for efficacy and all of this, the people that are recruited, or the participants that are recruited, are, without knowing, going to be placed in one of the two groups. Again, that's either the experimental group, which will receive the treatment or the intervention, or the control group, which will not receive it, and will probably get like a placebo or something. So after the research is complete, then the researchers are going to determine if there was efficacy between the two groups, and that's usually how they decide if, a medication or an intervention or treatment is really effective for the population that it's designed for. So that's an example of a randomized control experiment or design. Longitudinal. Longitudinal is a sort of research design that follows the same people at different points in time. And so an example, or not just at different points of time, but that follows individual or a group of people at different ages. So say there is a group of individuals that, and I don't know why I'm using this, it's just like literally the first thing that came to my mind. I know this is going to sound a little bit out there, but I recently watched Titanic again. I love that movie. But say there were a group of Titanic survivors, and the researchers wanted to see what they were doing, or how they were doing, or if they had any physical ailments 30 years later. So they check in with those participants. The participants agree and sign to be a part of this longitudinal design when they get off the Titanic. So they're all consented and everything. And then 30 years later, the researcher checks in with them to see how they are. That is a longitudinal design. And they usually do these sorts of experiments because they really want to see differences with ages. And of course, one of the main limitations to this is that sometimes people die, a lot of different things can happen. So there's a long period of time that you have to wait. So that's something that you want to keep in mind for that. The next design is a single subject design. So this is where the participant may serve as their own control rather than using another individual or group. So an example for this is a medical provider wants to see if calling their patient every week will improve their medical outcome or their medical prognosis. So they start with kind of a baseline measure of compliance and call, their patients for the next couple months weekly. And while measuring compliance, then they stop what they're doing. So then the medical provider will then stop calling and measure that the prognosis again and see if there's anything different. So that's an example of a single subject design. And lastly, a cross-sectional design. So a cross-sectional design, not to be confused with a cross-sequential design, because again, I don't have all of the research designs in this video. If you want to see all the research designs, that will be mentioned in my study program. So a cross-sectional design is when researchers collect data during a single point in time from participants that have different ages. So an example of this is researcher might guess that people tend to become nicer and possibly also more accepting as they age. So to really prove this hypothesis, they will probably get participants that are in their teens, in their 30s, and in their 50s at different times in their life, and then complete like this sort of screening measure about I guess, being nice or being respectful, and then test whether there's any sort of correlation between age and that thing that they're testing for, which in this case is being nice. So of course this is just an example, but that's the best example I can think of for a cross-sectional design. I am currently doing research right now. I am a PhD psychology research student, along with being a licensed clinical social worker. So I am looking at all these different types of research designs, and they can get very complicated and complex to comprehend. And trust me, even though I'm doing this every day, I find myself having to YouTube a lot of these terms sometimes, so you can still be kind of well versed in these things, but really need a lot more background information and breakdown in layman's terms to truly kind of understand and apply. So if that's something that you're having a hard time doing, don't feel bad about it, because we're kind of all there. So anyway, hope this information was helpful. Stay tuned for the second part of this video, which is going to include an LCSW test prep on the 4 different research designs that I told you about. Again, there are more, but those are going to be saved for my study program. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, managing mental health matters.